Okay.
And it said, I took a picture of it. How would you solve from the 20 DVDs you purchased this past year? You plan to take 5 with you on vacation. How many different sets of 5 DVDs can you take? And the first time I picked permutation
Okay.
because I remember watching the video, like whenever you did the math, you were like, oh, MA and AM for permutation, but for combination, you just needed one or the other.
Right.
So I thought that it would be permutation, but it was combination.
Right. So the big phrase you need to keep in mind is combination, order doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like if you were just grabbing some books off of your shelf to weight down a picnic blanket, or if you were just grabbing CDs out of your car, I don't know. If you're just like getting a chunk of things, you just want a certain number of items from a collection of items. You don't care what order they're in, that's combinations. But when there's any reference to order, like, oh, we need a first place, second place, third place finisher, or we need a president, a vice president, and a secretary, or we want things alphabetized, or we want things from smallest to largest. If there's any reference to order, order then becomes important. And then that situation fits the definition for using the formula for permutations instead. So permutations is like all the different ways of arranging items. So order is important. And combinations is you just want, you know, and items arranged our ways. It doesn't, order is not important.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So in your case, if you were just grabbing 5 CDs from the 20 and it doesn't say we have to put them in alphabetical order or, you know, anything like that, then that's why that's combinations. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Sure.
Okay, and then there was another one. This one was also a word problem.
Yep.
I think it was like 3 friends wanted to go on a trip to 9 countries, but there were 13 they wanted to visit. How can they skip the other ones? And it was like pick permutation, combination, or neither. And I picked neither, but that was wrong.
So in that case, they're not saying, hey, we want to visit the countries from north to south, or we want to visit the countries in alphabetical order. Like they're just choosing to visit a certain number of countries. So do you hear that word choosing?
Yeah.
When I teach this in class, and sometimes it gets referenced in the video recording, but I always think like combination begins with the letter C. And so does choosing. Choosing also begins with the letter C. So anytime somebody's just making a choice from a selection of items, that begins with C. So that's a combination. That's another way you can remember it. So in this case, they're just choosing to visit certain countries. There's no reference to the order in which they would like to visit them, like largest population to smallest population, or, you know, oldest country to newest country. There's no reference to order. So that's why that's also a combination problem.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, this one, it was how many 2-digit numbers can you make with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 without repeating anything?
Okay, so let me write that one down.
Okay.
So we have 1. Come on, pen. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we want to know how many digit numbers? How many
How many
two-digit numbers?
2-digit numbers
So
you can
digit,
make without repeating, yeah.
digit. Okay, and no repeating.
Mm-hmm.
No repeats. So I always like to think, okay, well, how many different options do I have for that first blank in my digit? So this is these blanks right here in this box that I'm drawing represent my 2-digit number.
Okay.
So I got to ask myself in that first blank right there, how many options do I have to choose from? And since we're picking from the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, I have 4 options to choose from. And then I got to ask myself, how many options do I then have for that second blank? And I had 4 for the first blank. And then it tells me, hey, I'm not allowed to repeat. So let's say I chose 4 for that first blank, you know, that I'm not allowed to use the 4 again, which eliminates one of my options. So I only have 3 numbers to choose from for that second blank. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So since I'm not allowed to repeat, there's only 12 options to choose from. Now that's me using something called some books call it the fundamental counting principle. Some books call it the multiplication counting principle. I've seen it called different things in different books. But basically that's us doing, a permutation as well. So there is more than one way to do this problem. But it just occurred to me that, I could just use the fundamental counting principle too. I just think that that's faster.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
I think there's 2 more.
Okay.
So this one, it was how many ways can you arrange 5 of 8 vases from left to right in a store display? And I tried to use combination because I figured that the order didn't matter, but I don't think that the answer that I got was an option.
Okay. So it asks you how many different ways. The
Can
wording
you
in this
arrange?
one is important. You did screen capture it. Is that what you said?
No, I just kind of wrote some of the words.
Okay. Um, I can try to go back through the quizzes and take a look. I wonder if it'll let me just do it on here. Let's try.
Okay.
So, what do you need, Mare? My son was Googling. Oh, man. Okay. What do you need, Mare? Never mind. Okay. Time?
How many ways can you arrange 5 of 8 vases from left to right in a store display?
Okay. So because they're talking about all the different ways to arrange those vases, and they reference an order there, you said from left to right. That's the case where
Oh,
order is important. So that's going to be a permutation. Does that make sense?
yes.
I think the first time you read it, I didn't hear the left to right part, but that's
Okay.
definitely a permutation.
Okay, and then this one, it said this one was pick permutation, combination, or neither.
Okay.
And it said, how many ways can you arrange 4 framed portraits on top of your bookshelf?
So they're looking for all the different ways to arrange them.
Yes.
So I would either do, I don't know what your options were, but you could definitely just do that one as either a permutation or with the fundamental counting principle. So if we're talking about arranging all of the different frames, we're not just choosing, we're trying to arrange all the 4 frames. Arrange 4 frames. That's the case where your order is going to matter, right? Because you
Hmm.
care. You're like, okay, well, I could do smallest to largest. I could do, alphabetical order by the name of the person in the picture, like who I like best. But if you could do the permutations or you could do the multiplication counting principle. So if this is your shelf and you have 4 frames that you're trying to put on this shelf, you'd have 4 options for the first one. And then obviously you can't repeat the same picture frame if you put it in that first spot. So you'd have 3 frames for the second spot on the shelf, and then 2 frames for the third spot on the shelf, and then you'd have 1 frame for that last spot on the shelf. So that's just going to be 24. What 4 times 3 is 12 times 2? Yeah, that's just 24. So that's
Hmm.
your way of doing that with the multiplication counting principle. The other way of doing it with permutations is that you're trying to take 4 items and arrange it 4 ways. So you would do 4 factorial over 4 minus 4 factorial. And then 4 factorial, we already showed, was 24. 4 minus 4 is 0. So this would be 0 factorial. And 0 factorial is actually 1, because even if you arrange 0 items, that's still one arrangement. So that's why 0 factorial is 1. So 24 divided by 1 still gives us 24. So that's if you did it with permutations. Again, sometimes I just think doing it with the multiplication counting principle or the fundamental counting principle is faster. But you could definitely, this just kind of goes to show you that you could do that problem either way and get the same answer.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
There was one that I accidentally hit it before I finished the problem,
Okay.
and I got it right.
Oh, pleasant surprise.
Yeah. So it was something to do with letters, and I don't remember what the question was, but I think it was find the difference between something with the word Tennessee and the word away.
Yes. So you have to do, that's you doing your permutation formula, but it's the formula with repetition. So there's 2 different formulas in that section. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but if you wanted to say, for instance, I forget what the other state was. I remember making that question. I do know that one was Tennessee. I think the other one was like Iowa or something like that. But Tennessee, you have to use the formula for permutations with repetition, which
Mhm.
is n factorial over, let's say, you can call item 1 that repeats, call that
Mhm.
S1. So like in Tennessee, what is there? Like 2 N's, so if N is your first thing that repeats, that occurs to you that repeats, S1 would be N, it repeats twice, so that's 2 factorial. We could say there's other letters in Tennessee that repeat. So that would be your, second, like let's say you wanted to pick E next, how many times that repeats. And then I think they call this a K. Like it's just however many items you have that repeat, factorial. And you're multiplying those numbers on the bottom together. So you're not using the formula that I used up here. You're using the permutation formula with repetitions in it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then because you're using that formula twice, you're going to use it on the state of Tennessee. And then I can't remember the other state in the problem off the top of my head. But you would calculate the different ways of arranging the letters in that other state. And then you would just subtract those 2 numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all that I had.
Okay. That was easy enough.
Yeah.
um, well, thanks for signing on and for, coming and keeping me company.
Thank you for answering my
Sure,
questions.
anytime. Happy to do it. It is easier sometimes to just jump on and ask your question, because explaining this stuff on email is
Yeah.
it's like sending screenshots to people, but if your internet allows, it's kind of nice to be able to jump on Zoom and just get it
Yeah.
done. But is there anything else I could do for you?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So I'll be hanging out on here for a couple more minutes to see if anybody else joins us, and then I'll crop this a little bit, but I'll probably put it on Google Classroom at some point. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jenny. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All
Talk
right.
to you
Take care.
later.
Bye.
Bye.